Hello, beautiful lovers of God. I'm your host, Miriam Francisco, and I'm so thrilled and so excited to welcome you back to another episode of the Living Faithful podcast. How are you? How are you doing? It's been so long. I think that May is quite a busy month for a lot of us as we're writing, we're working, and also I just had so many things happening in terms of family and friends and showing up there, so I couldn't really release anything. And today's episode is so timely as it's my birthday. Yeah, it's my birthday today. And hear me out. First of all, every time I meet someone, they always assume that I'm younger than 20. I don't know what it is. I have no idea. But thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the compliment. It's gonna help me in the long run. But I'm 22. And so I want to share 22 things that I've learned at 22. So this isn't in any particular order, but this very first point has to be the most important thing I've learned in this entire life. And it is to include God in everything. I learned to include God in everything. In times I spend by myself, in times I spend with people, at work, at church, with strangers, at home, with family. I can see God in everything and acknowledge Him in my day-to-day life and day-to-day activities. I learned that going about my day but thinking about the word or whispering little prayers mean and do the biggest things in my day. And so including God in my friendships, including God in relationships, including God in things like my tiny little goals to the biggest goals I've ever had, including God in every single thing, has done the biggest change in my life. And I just learned to make Him a part of every day. And every day, even if it's not the brightest day, it is still a day that I'm grateful for. Another thing that I learned is that I can freely be me. I believe and I like to describe myself as someone who's very open and welcoming and sometimes a little bit more bubbly. Life happens and we unfortunately come across people who aren't like that. And unfortunately, those people choose to show the worst sides of themselves. I would then try to match their energy, and that came at the expense of who God created me to be. I don't believe God created any of us to be malicious, rude, angry all the time, and just isolated. He's given us love, and that's just who I am. I learned that I don't have to match anyone's energy. If I come across someone who's on a different page as I am, that's okay. I have learned to offer them the grace and allow them to adjust, and I don't have to adjust to them. If anyone has to change their energy, it will be the one who's negative. And I just learned that I don't have to match anyone's energy. I can just be me and allow them to adjust. Another thing that I learned is to intentionally spend time with my loved ones. As cliche as it sounds, it's so important to be intentional with loved ones. Showing up to family braais, showing up to celebrations, FaceTiming long distance family or friends. God placed me in my family for a reason. There is something that I can learn from them, and there's something that they feel inside of me that I can't get anywhere else. And it would be so unfair, and I would be missing out on a gift from God if I choose to push them aside and not be intentional with them. And so I learned to be intentional with my loved ones and spend as much time as I can with them. Lesson 4 that I learned is not every person is meant to stay in my life, and that's okay. I've met some really amazing people in my life over the years. Initially, I thought our friendship would last, but it didn't. I just learned so much from them, every single person. And the reality is that God sends people in different seasons of our lives so they either teach us or we can teach them. And for that, I'm grateful for every interaction, whether good or bad. Lesson 6 is that I should be a friend I want to have. I learned that in order for me to have beautiful friendships, I need to be the friend I want to have. Whether that means reaching out first, initiating outings, calling, comforting, genuinely just being there. From realizing this, I was then able to attract beautiful friendships. I learned that the world teaches us to be a tit for tat, but God teaches us to treat others how we want to be treated. And that's how I began to look at friendships. Number 7 is forgiveness. Holding on to hurt is literally only hurting me more than it is hurting the person who caused it. I don't have to hang on to that, but trust God to vindicate the situation, whether it is people, circumstances, myself. I learned to be able to forgive. Forgiveness is freeing. With forgiveness, I learned to look at it in a way that I constantly slip up, but God is still able to forgive me, and He offers His grace to me. And because He does that to me, I should be able to do the same for other people. Number 8 is communication. I learned to communicate everything. Some words left unsaid can cause the biggest strain in friendships and relationships, all because I decided not to express myself. Sometimes you don't have to cut people off. You really just have to talk about it. I also learned that with communication, what I say and how I say it really plays a big role. The way in which I say things can make or break a situation. So expression is really, really important. Another thing that I learned, being number 9, is privacy. I learned that not everyone will see life and see things, or rather see your vision the way that God has shown it to you. Therefore, it's important to be private. Of course, you can seek advice from those you trust, but there's also those people who won't understand, and that's okay, but rather keep it private. For example, there is something I wanted to do and I spoke about it so much, and this one person didn't see it the way that I saw it, and in a way discouraged me about it. And that delayed my time in starting this specific thing. Everyone has an opinion, but not every opinion we need to consider. Rather be private about certain things in life to avoid the external noise. Another thing I've learned is to live in the moment. I learned to let go of worrying so much about the future that I overlook the moment I'm in, the present. I learned to enjoy every moment as it comes, to enjoy today and let go of yesterday and not even think about tomorrow. I learned that this moment, in this very day, I will not get it back. I won't get the same weather. I won't get the same people. Maybe, but that is not assured. So I learned to enjoy the moment right now, right here. This is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. In this moment, I will be happy. In this moment, I will enjoy. I will rejoice. I will be glad in this moment. Number 10 or number 9, I think I have my numbering wrong somewhere. But anyways, I learned to be independent. I learned to figure out things, and I learned to figure out who I am outside of other people. And once I did that, I was then able to figure out my own style, my own ways of living, and to run with that. Number 12. Something that as Christians tend to do is run from God when we are in difficulty. For instance, I learned that I should rather run to God and be open about my struggles, be open about my battles, and trust Him to see me through. God doesn't only focus on what we're doing, but He's looking at our hearts and the sincerity of our hearts. If I'm struggling with a specific sin, for example, I lie a lot, and it randomly happens, and I'm just always lying, but I don't want to. God sees in my heart, and I can tell Him that I don't want to lie anymore, and He knows in my heart that I don't want to. He will set me free. It all really stems from the heart posture. Another thing is that just being the better person. I don't think I'm the only person who has noticed how either in Pick n Pay or Checkers or Woolworths, there's always cashiers that are always cranky or mean. You know, I understood that they're probably tired and had the longest day, and, you know, there's a lot going on for them. Meeting different faces all the time can be a little bit tiring at times. I get that. And so I decided to choose to give them good energy in exchange of their bad energy. By greeting them first, asking how their day is going, and maybe saying a little joke, and eventually they'll crumble and smile and give you back the same energy that you gave them. And if they don't give it back, that's okay. They'll understand later. This isn't only applicable to cashiers, but to all the people around. There's a song by Jonathan McReynolds that says, "I recognize that this is a day that you have made, so I walk in love and put a smile on my face. But in case I run into someone on a different day, help me maintain." I truly live by that. The day was created by God, and I just have to rejoice and put a smile on my face. But not everyone realizes that, and so I don't have to allow those who don't realize that to change what I already know. We actually set the tone for our day, for everything that happens to us. We aren't in control of what happens to us, but we are in control of how we react to that. And with that, being the better person, I'm not in control of the next person and what they choose to say to me, but I'm in control of how I respond and just choosing to be the better person. Another thing I learned is everything gets better in time. The hardship, the trials, literally the difficulties, the confusion, the uni workload, the getting up early, everything, it gets better in time. And nothing that you've faced, nothing that you're currently facing, and nothing that you will face will stay forever. Literally, it will get better in time. And we just have to be patient, and we just have to keep praying, and just have to keep trusting God. Another thing I learned is to not awaken love before it's time. I learned that God has a time for everything. This includes love and relationships. I learned to not do anything in my own power or my own strength. I learned to not create bonds when God didn't say I should. There is so much trouble attached to starting things without God's approval, starting things without God leading me, without God directing me, without God telling me. I learned to let go and give it all to God. I learned that He is the master of time and that He will lead me to something and to a love that represents His love when the time is right. Another thing I learned is to see things through the lens of God. For example, a missed opportunity isn't actually a missed opportunity, but rather it's God taking me in a different direction. Another thing I learned is to serve, whether if it's in the church or in my community, to do something for God. This can even be through His people. Serving in the media team at church taught me so much outside of church too, which just shows how God is a God of abundance. There is so much. God is always extra. I can pray for one thing and He will always give me something else with that. And that was what happened when it came to serving for me. I was never a tech girl, but I learned so much all in the name of God. It's been a double win for me, and I was never serving at church. I was never serving at church to get something, but God gave me still. So I really recommend to those listening to find a place in the church that they can do something for God. And even if it's not at church, in your workplace, in your home, start in your own world, just serve. I learned that spreading the gospel isn't only going up to people and telling them about the Bible. That's fantastic. That's amazing. That's beautiful. But other people see God in the way that we live, our choice of words, our attitude, our actions. We are the walking Bible for those who don't have access to it. We are the Word of God in flesh. And so I learned to really be more mindful of myself and watch my words, watch my actions. And I learned to pray about this so that whoever doesn't know Christ can know Christ just by looking at me without me having to say I'm even a Christian. Number 18. Yes, I'm back with the numbers. Listen to understand and not listen to respond. Take a step back and hear people out. See where they're coming from and try to see things from their lens. Just like when it comes to evangelizing. Someone really taught me this and said, it's better to do so when you've got an understanding and an empathy for what others see or what others believe. Or else you just clash and butt heads and there's going to be an argument. And so I learned to listen to other people and to understand them, and then I'm able to respond. And this is in any aspect. Number 19. It's so important to be teachable and to accept advice and correction. We can never know it all. I was someone who would get offended if I was corrected, or I would always try to prove a point. Like if someone corrected me, I would be like, but I actually meant it in this way, and try and change it. But it's okay if I don't know everything. It's okay if I don't know something in a specific field or a certain thing in anything actually. It's okay. I can be teachable. I can sit and I can learn and I can understand. I can never know all of it, and that's okay. Number 20. Let go of failed things and don't carry it into your future. What's done is done, and now we just have to learn to do better in the future. I always think about Lot's wife. She looked back at her past, and that's how she turned into a pillar of salt. Who knows what we will become if we look back at our past continuously. Number 21. Step out of your comfort zone. Your potential is hidden behind there. Once I did, so many doors of blessings unlocked. I grew in so many ways, and with those blessings, it reached those around me as well. And last but not least, number 22. trust God. Trust God's timing. This is easier said than done, but there has been times where I trusted God with a certain thing and I put my own time frames to it, but God didn't allow it to happen according to my time, because only to find out if it did and what I wanted happened, I would have found myself in major trouble. God sees the bigger picture of things, and He will bring great peace to me if I just allow Him to handle it, if I just allow Him to lead me according to His will, according to His plan. God is literally the creator of this world, and going to do things in my own power, my own strength, literally is just putting a whole lot of weight on myself and disqualifying God for His capabilities. And so I've just learned to allow Him to lead me. But yeah, these are just parts of the things that I've learned, and I'm so grateful. They all pretty much tie into each other. And I think to sum it all up, I would literally just say being a better person and trusting God and allowing Him to lead me has brought me super far. And I'm so grateful. And with that, I'm so grateful for you, and I'm so thankful to God for allowing me to be able to do this, to be able to record this episode and this podcast in general. And my biggest birthday wish is just for you to pray for me. Pray for me in your own time. Just pray for me as a woman of God, truly just to stay in His will and to be who He called me to be. And this episode was a little bit more personal. I believe you got to know me a little bit more. But yeah, I pray as always that you'll be blessed listening to this. I pray that the lessons that I learned resonate with you, and maybe something I learned you can also use. And yeah, thank you for sticking by, and thank you for being here. And yeah, let me go and let me celebrate my birthday. But yeah, thank you so much. I'm so blessed. I'm so thankful for you, and I pray that God can bless you abundantly. See you in the next one. Bye.